Hi, purpose of this video is to show you how to make a clean looking interface in Google Sheets using just the normal spreadsheet where you can have certain inputs. For example, I can change this to 2 and we can see that our output automatically updates. So to do that, let's go ahead and start with this sheet over here. I've gone ahead and put in inputs, outputs, mass. This is just where I'm going to enter mass, the units for each of them. And for the output, it's basically just a multiplication of those two because net force equals mass times acceleration. However, if you were calculating something else, you'd do whatever math or function you need to do in here. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to increase the size of my titles up here. So I'm just going to highlight that and go ahead and say, let's say size 30 font. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is this looks a little bit bigger than the cell size, so I'm going to readjust the cell size. So that's one part, is you'll often want to readjust the size of different cells so that they fit whatever it is you're doing. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight this top part, and I want to color it a slightly darker green. So I'll put that in. I want to highlight this top part and color it a slightly darker blue. All right, now one thing to notice here though is that our lines are still showing. So the first trick that I'm going to show you is how to make the lines disappear. There are ways to do that very simply just by changing a view, but we don't know if the customer will have the same view. So the other foolproof way is you highlight. We've already filled it, so now I'm going to go to borders. I'm going to select all the borders. You notice it automatically filled it with black. Well, I just want to change that to the exact same color as my fill. And now, since it matches, it disappears. We'll do the same thing over here. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the borders, and I'm going to change it to the same color that I've filled with. And now those borders disappear. All right, next thing I'm going to do is make this space all one solid color. So let's do a lighter green. And again, I'm going to go to the borders, and I'm going to fill it with the same style border. And then over here, I'm going to make this all blue, and again, I'm going to fill it, and to make the borders disappear, we select all the borders, and then I change it to be the exact same color as the fill color. Cool. Now we have a cleaner looking interface. At this point, what I like to do is highlight all of this area down here and go ahead and fill it white, and then also change all the borders to white, and we'll start to see that it begins to look a lot cleaner. So we can fill this area with white and change all the borders to white. All right, and now we have something that looks more like an interface. I left this one lined because I actually want to make that a nice little dividing line. So I'm going to shrink that size of the column and highlight that set. And finally, I'm going to fill that with black. And that way, we have a nice little dividing line that makes it very clear where the inputs are versus where the outputs are. Now, last things that you can do to make things a little bit more obvious are make your input font size a little bit bigger, make this one a little bit bigger, and let's make our output size 30, so a little bit bigger yet. Again, that's a little bit too small, so we're going to move this over. Cool. Last but not least, it's hard to tell where I'm actually doing the inputs. Do I change this or do I just change the number? So the last thing that I like to do is I like to go back and make this actually a white box. And then I like to change the border for that box to a black border. And that way it makes it very clear, oh look, I need to put my mass in and it's 3 kilograms. I can do the same thing, actually just copy and paste. I can do the same thing here, but I'll change that back to 4. And we have ourselves an interface. Other things that help are sometimes to put the text shifted to the right so that it's very clear that that is the mass. We can say colon space, and very clear that this is the acceleration. Might make this column a little bit bigger, but with that, we have our nice clean looking interface. If I want to highlight this number, I can also choose the bottom border. That's this bottom border right here, and put that as black, and it makes it look a little bit more like, or calls a little bit more attention to that output. That's it for how to make an interface. This is pretty quick and easy one. Oftentimes what I'll like to do is hide all of my calculations and data down here. I might even do it in white text so that people can't see it, or I might grid it out and black it out and say, please do not edit. But that's it for this one. Hopefully this helped.